using a system of mirrors as weapons to take the light of the sun and aim it at the ship and burn the ship before it can get to them. They had a lot of ideas concerning mirrors back then, so let's do a recap and then move on to further information. Old looking glasses or mirrors were not made out of the same materials that modern mirrors are made out of. Old mirrors, like I said before, were made out of a mixture of crystals, quartz, mercury, silver, sometimes copper for coloring, and tin, as well as other ingredients. Modern mirrors, on the other hand, are made out of a clear, polished glass substrate, or sometimes acrylic, coated on the back with a thin, highly reflective layer of aluminum or silver. The old-looking glasses or mirrors, like I said, were made out of crystals, quartz, mercury, silver, copper, and some of these other things, right, for color, and tin, and other substances. Now listen to this. These substances made to make these mirrors are some of the same substances that old photographic plates were made out of. Look this up for yourself. Old photographic plates were made using silver, mercury, copper, some of these other things. The photographic image was formed actually by exposing a mirror polished silver plated copper plate to light and then developing it with mercury vapor to form a silver mercury amalgam. So part of the photographic plates were polished silver mirrors. So in taking a photograph, what was happening is that light would bounce off of an object, and then the light waves would carry the image through the air to the camera, and that image being carried on light waves would enter into the camera, and the light waves would strike the plate, and an image would be captured on the plate. So remember being a child and you'd make crafts, and I don't know if you've ever seen this or not, but one of the things you could do is that you could make a functional shoebox pinhole camera. All you needed was a shoebox, and then you could paint the shoebox completely black on the inside to prevent a reflection, and then you could use aluminum foil or whatever. You'd poke a pinhole in the box, and you'd put film in there or some wax paper or whatever, and you could make a picture in the box because images travel through the air and strike the screen. Right in the room you are in right now, there are images being carried on light waves. So what happens when you make a looking glass out of the very same substances nearly that you make a photographic plate out of? See, photographic plates are made to absorb and retain images in the plate, on the plate. And now, let's say you have mirrors made out of the very same elements as photographic plates, which I said are made to absorb and display images traveling on light waves. See, now speaking of these looking glasses, these mirrors, they would send 19th century physicists to examine these old Venetian type mirrors, and the physicist would record temperature and magnetic abnormalities on the mirror or around the mirror, whatever. And some have stated that amalgam mirrors are like photographs. Back when they had these types of mirrors, they could place magnometers by these looking glasses and the needle fluctuated. And on another note, some of the vintage radios made centuries later that picked up waves from the air were made of the same elements. So when you have mirrors that are made out of the same thing as photographic plates, and that later would be used for certain types of vintage radios to pick up waves out of the air, what do you suppose is going to happen? Well, according to historic reports, what started happening is all over Vienna and Russia near St. Petersburg, where they made these types of mirrors, and London and Paris, where these mirrors were manufactured, that were made out of these substances, many of the physicians, the doctors in these areas, started reporting a new medical condition that they called a mass hallucination, where many people would look into the looking glass and they claimed to see reflections at times in the mirror that would move independently of them. For instance, they might have been looking in the mirror for an extended period of time with a straight face, and then they claimed that suddenly the person on the other side of the glass would smile at them when they weren't smiling. Or the image in the mirror would turn its head when they didn't. Some said that the image of them would morph and turn into a different person. And some claimed to see monsters or people motioning them from the other side of the glass. And like I said, doctors called it a mass hallucination. And some attributed this to mercury poisoning because mercury was in the mirror. And this phenomenon grew to such immense proportions that the Russian Orthodox Church forbid clergy to having looking glasses in their home. They proposed that people should have special tapestries made of velvet and other fabrics placed over their mirrors starting at twilight and remain on them until morning. And during that time period, it was a normal procedure to cover mirrors. They did this all over the world. Doctors, engineers, scholars, all over Europe, Russia, and the United States followed this protocol. It's still in Old English etiquette books to cover mirrors at night and to never look at them between midnight and 3 a.m. It was just a commonly known thing that weird things happened at night with mirrors. Like I said, everyone did this. It was common practice. The servants of Marie Antoinette claimed that there was a mirror in the palace that would whisper and supposedly showed a picture of Marie Antoinette's death before it happened. The events are recorded in palace records. So, it's your choice whether to believe this or not. I'm not telling you what to believe or what actually happened. I'm just telling you information that you might not have heard before. Queen Elizabeth I had a philosopher named John Dee. He consulted the Queen on different navigational matters and different things. And he, supposedly according to history, would look into a black obsidian mirror and claim that beings were appearing him to the mirror and telling him information. And this mirror is still in the British Museum. You can still see it. These types of Venetian mirrors made of these certain elements were all over, and they started making their own in the Russian Empire, ruled by the Tsars. They were produced in St. Petersburg. And some people claim to see other time periods and architecture in the mirrors that they didn't recognize in these mirrors of Russia. And there are some people that claim that they were seeing reflections of the Tartarian Empire, and that this science of these mirrors is actually something that came from an older civilization. See, manufacturers of these types of mirrors in other parts of the world, like on a certain island, I think it might have been called Murano, I might have that wrong, it was punishable by death to reveal the recipe for these mirrors, exactly how they made them. And I think it was over 20 people either died or disappeared mysteriously when it was in danger that they would reveal this recipe. See, when the Russian Revolution took place and communism took place, many of the symbols of the old Russian Empire were ordered to be destroyed, and it's thought that when they went through and they ravaged these places, destroyed stuff in them, destroying these old world symbols, many of these mirrors were shattered at this time. Not specifically the mirrors, it was just a part of everything else being destroyed at that time. Very interesting.